This one wild and precious life. Enough to hold you in my heart and carry on. Around we go, it's just a game, and the order of all things remains the same. So close my hand around the night of this one wild and precious life. Knocking at my door, even night. It's a gift I can't ignore. I'm sorry. When there's joy, there must be pain. So wash me clean with heavy, heavy rain. Close my eyes around the night. This one, precious smile.
Good morning. Would you, as usual, join me in the opening of the chalice, lighting it? One more time. And now, we light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we live together.
absolutely stunning. I appreciate that, and it sets us in the right heart and the right spirit to be here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all look fabulous. just so you know, y'all look fabulous. There's a lot of you here to look back at me, and that just makes me happy. We're going to keep moving on and growing as a congregation. I can't wait to see what the next several months brings to us. My responsibility here is to make you feel welcome and also to cover some community announcements. In just a moment I'll be doing so, but what I'd like to do is pause for a moment and see if there is anybody here who is a first or second time visitor and willing to introduce yourself. If that's you, would you please stand, give us your name, and tell us where you're from.
Hi, my name is Neal Jones. This is my wife Carrie, and we're here from Connecticut.
Welcome. Yes, sir.
My name is Matt Swindler. I'm now from Sun City, and I was from Connecticut.
Welcome. This entire road.
I want to introduce three of my very dear friends from Florida. We met at the UU Church there, Friendship Fellowship. Pat Tebby, who has been around the world. Nancy Shacklett, who is from Florida and Colorado. And Sue Huseman from Florida and Maine. And they've come to spend a few days with me.
Wonderful. Good to have you. Yes, ma'am.
Marcy Tressel, Rosie.
Welcome, ma'am. So we expect the Connecticut faction to get to know each other. Well, got this going on. There are some announcements that I want to bring to your attention. Betsy, I'm going to ask you if you would please.
Hi. Hi. I have some news from your care committee. We haven't seen Mary Watson for a long time, well, a couple of weeks at least, and she has had extensive back surgery and been in the hospital, but she's home now, and her husband Al is making their meals. She will have physical therapy at her house for 2 months. And she misses all of us at UUCL, and she welcomes visitors. She said she gets lonely sometimes. And June Bartholomew, we haven't seen her either, nor her father, Marvin. June and her husband have had COVID for over 2 weeks. They have both relapsed after taking Paxlovid. So June's husband has also suffered with a serious condition for 2 years now. And June is responsible for taking care of her husband and her dad, which is one of our church members, Marvin Koretsky. She also has a job. The care committee has been doing their best to provide Marvin with meals, and some folks have enjoyed staying and visiting with Marvin. He's a really special man. If anyone is interested, we could use some help with meals for Marvin while June is still sick. Thanks to everyone for your compassion and your love.
Thank you, Betsy. Gary, yes. You want to make your announcement?
Sure.
If you would, please.
Hi, so my name is Gary Green. I'm chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. On a side note from that, I don't know who was here last night for the potluck dinner that we had. That was a wonderful time. It was a lot of fun. It's great to get to re-meet people, and thank you, Lynn, and the rest of the people who made this happen. Really appreciate that. So tomorrow we're having Stanley Steamer come and clean the rest of our building, all the tile floors outside and some of the carpeted rooms. So today after service, John Wald, who's been organizing this, and I, and hopefully anyone else who can, stay a little late to help us move chairs and bring furniture from outside into this location, which has already been cleaned, such that Stanley Steamer can just come and get the job done. That would be very, very appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. The only other announcement I think I would want to underscore is the music on Malfrist is coming Friday, and I know that you all want to be there. This is a special, talented young lady that we'll have in our presence. Bring some friends. Oh, bring some enemies. We'll love on them all together. Is there anything I have neglected, an announcement we should come back to? Okay, you good? All right, I'm going to turn this over to Neal now, if you would please, Neal.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be with you this morning. Our opening words are by George Davis. To be strong enough to gain mastery over ourselves and humble enough to be willing to learn from others. To be brave enough to choose the right road no matter how hard it may be. And patient enough to keep on it in spite of obstacles. To be wise enough to know our shortcomings, and honest enough to admit the excellence of others. To be proud enough to command the respect of strong people, and gentle enough to win the love of little children. That is our aspiration for today. Now join with me as we stand, as we're willing and able, for our opening hymn, number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
This is the time in our service that we acknowledge the work that we do in social justice by contributing food to the Sandalwood Food Pantry and Bluffton Self-Help, otherwise known for, in the words of the immortal Irene Reed, this is the lima bean time. So if you have anything that you would like to contribute or have already contributed, please put them at the end of the table in the back of the vestibule. Thank you very much for that. It will help very, very much. The second thing we need to do is sustain ourselves and our congregation by contributing. I want to say one other thing, that it is December, and it would be lovely if today or in the remaining weeks you might consider making your contributions for this year, because it's very good for your tax purposes that you're going to have to fill out in another 30 days. So please, we'll pass the basket. Thank you for your generosity, and as a temporary fill-in for the Honorable Gordon Stamler, I messed up, so you didn't have to put in any money if you're a first-time visitor, but we will probably put it in the bank in any case if you have contributed. So thank you again very much.
Would you join me now in the affirmation, which is number 434 in the back of your hymnal, 434. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Now the Reverend Dr. Neal Jones.
Well, today we do officially welcome our new members into our congregation, and I'll make a prediction. When others find out that you belong to a religion with a tongue-twisting name, their first question will be, well, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? That's because most people believe that religion exists to promote a set of beliefs. And they're right. Most religions do unite around a shared set of beliefs. And I'll make another prediction. When others ask you what UUs believe, you'll answer, UUs believe whatever we want to believe. I know because I used to give that answer myself. However, I hope that by the end of the day's sermon, you'll consider giving a different answer. Now, it's too bad that most religions organize themselves around certain beliefs. because such a limited understanding of religion is killing religion. You've heard me talk before about the changing landscape in American religious life toward religious non-affiliation. In fact, the fastest growing religious category in America is, ironically, the religiously non-affiliated, the famous nuns. Fewer Americans are attending or even belong to a church. According to the Public Religion Research Institute, as many as a quarter of Americans are nuns. And for people under 30, that number rises to 1/3. This makes them the nation's largest faith category, outstripping Catholics and white evangelicals. And they appear to be on a trajectory to become an outright majority in the not-too-distant future. America appears to be following the secular path of Europe, Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, and other developed countries. Now, there are various explanations of why this is happening. The internet exposes young people to a wide array of ideas and practices that undercut old-time beliefs. The breakdown of the traditional family severs traditional participation in congregations. People have grown cynical about authority of all types. The fundamentalist hostility toward women, gays, lesbians, and trans people has soured open-minded Americans. The Catholic child molestation scandals have undermined the moral credibility of all churches. And the faith-based justifications for suicide bombings, acts of terrorism, and other forms of religious violence shock the conscience of normal people. All these factors undoubtedly play a role, but let me give a simpler explanation which encompasses all these factors. Modern, educated people can no longer believe beliefs which originated in the Iron Age. Despite the fact that our knowledge of our world and ourselves has grown exponentially since then, most religions stubbornly cling to those antiquated, pre-scientific, intellectually untenable, and morally repugnant beliefs. Our religious beliefs have not kept pace with our knowledge or our ethics. And religions that cling to the past will be left in the past. Despite the trend in all developed countries away from religion and towards secularism, I do have hope for our religion. Unlike many religions, Unitarian Universalism is not creedal. We're covenantal. A creed is a set of beliefs, and is usually used as a test. You must believe these things or you can't be a part of our religion. A covenant is a set of promises, and is usually used as a challenge. You must keep your promises to behave a certain way. If you don't, you let others in this community down, and you let yourself down. Creeds are concerned with how you think. Covenants are concerned with how you live. An example of a covenant is the one from Universalist minister Griswold Williams, which is recited at the beginning of many UU services. We've done it here before. It's printed on the insert in your order of service. Griswold Williams Congregational Covenant. Let us recite it together. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Now, covenant is a quaint, somewhat old-fashioned term. Today in our secular world, we're much more acquainted with the term contract. A contract is a more legalistic, transactional term. A contract is a one-time document drawn up by attorneys with specific conditions and enforced with specific consequences. A covenant is more relational. It's a living, breathing, organic agreement made new every day. It can't be enforced by consequences, but it may be reinforced by forgiveness and recommitment. Whereas a contract is inscribed on paper, a covenant doesn't have to be, but it does have to be inscribed on one's heart. We UUs inherited the practice of covenant from our Puritan ancestors, and yes, we are related to the Puritans, believe it or not. Those Puritan ancestors who fled the domination of bishops in the Church of England, they sought to create a free church in which people attend by choice rather than by decree, where freedom of thought would be paramount, and where the way people treated each other became more important than whether or not they all believed the same. Though I'll have to admit, in those Puritan churches there was much less freedom of thought than we UUs enjoy today. And the phrase you read over and over again in those Puritan covenants is the promise to, quote, walk together. Come what may, they promised one another to listen deeply to one another's truth, to treat each other with respect and love, to work through conflicts, and to stand by and with one another. Now, those Bible-believing Puritans derived the practice of covenant, unsurprisingly, from the Bible, where it's recorded that Jehovah made a covenant with Abraham and Sarah, that they'd pull up their roots, travel to his promised land, and have a child at the ages of 190, respectively. And Jehovah would multiply their progeny so they'd be more numerous than the stars in the sky. I'm sure Abraham and Sarah were not expecting to spend their Social Security checks on a stroller and baby food. Now, covenant may have ancient roots, but you and I still practice covenant more often than you may think. And we still do so in religious community. When two people come to marry, they may ask their lawyers these days to draw up a prenuptial agreement, but the wedding vows that they make to each other are a covenant to be faithful to one another, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish from this day forward till death do us part. When parents come before a congregation to dedicate their children, they covenant to, quote, help this child to an appreciation of truth and beauty, uprightness of character, and love. And the congregation promises to the parents and their children, quote, that we may so live that our children may acquire our best virtues and leave behind our worst failings. I love that wording. Whenever we UU ministers are ordained, our home congregations covenant with us, quote, wherever you are called to serve, we pledge to walk with you. There's that Puritan phrase. To walk with you in unity of spirit, in the bonds of peace, and in the ways of truth. And in return, we ministers promise to, quote, speak the truth with love, to raise my voice for those who cannot speak, and to embody our principles with love, graciousness, humility, and passion. When new members join this covenantal community, you promise to, quote, bring your dedication, your faith, your doubts, your questions, and your willingness to serve this community and to make a place for this congregation in your minds, in your hearts, and in your lives. And in return, the congregation promises to welcome you and to open their hearts and minds to include you in the life of the church. Now, I think it's harder to belong to a covenantal religion than to a creedal religion, because you can fake your beliefs easier than you can fake your actions. You can say publicly that you believe something that privately you really don't, and get away with it. And that's why religious hypocrisy abounds. But your actions are almost always on public display, so it's more difficult to fool others. In other words, you can hide behind a creed, but you can't hide behind your behavior, because it's transparent to your character. To live in covenant requires courage, because it takes courage to trust one another, that they will treat you with respect, that they will keep their promises, that they'll not betray you, and that they'll safeguard your vulnerabilities. To live in a covenantal community is not for sissies. You put yourself out there and you risk getting hurt. A covenant is an agreement of how you would like things to be when things are going fine. But the real test of a covenant, whether it be between spouses or friends, between parents and children, or between a church member and his or her church, the real test of a covenant and of one's character comes when the covenant is broken. What do you do then? Well, the first step may be to take a step back and see if the covenant is still realistic and relevant. After all, people and circumstances do change. Chances are that the person you married 30 years ago isn't exactly the same person you walked down the aisle with. And chances are you aren't either. Successful marriages typically renegotiate their covenants as they go along in life, because life doesn't sit still to have its portrait painted. Sometimes, of course, one or both spouses may decide that they can no longer abide by their covenant anymore. And this can happen in churches as well. A member may discover that he or she cannot or will not behave according to the norms of the community. And so he or she may decide to drop out, or more unusually, be asked to leave. These exits from a covenant are never easy, but sometimes they can be the best thing to do for all concerned. But much more usually, people just mess up. They had every intention of living up to their part of the agreement, but for whatever reason, they disappoint you. They had a bad day. They didn't get much sleep the night before. They were caught off guard by the unexpected. They got embarrassed. Their ego was on the line. Instead of counting to 10, they lost their temper and said or did something in the moment they wouldn't ordinarily say or do. The stress is piled up, and one more was one more than they could handle. They misjudged how much time they would have, or they misjudged their own abilities. Whatever the reason, they and we mess up. Then what do you do? Now, this is where the rubber meets the road in living by a covenant. You come back to the agreement by coming back to the person. When the other person has broken your covenant, you go to them directly. You name the behavior and how you feel about it. And you don't assume that a person's single action defines him or her as a person. You're clear about what you'd like them to do differently, and what, if anything, you're willing to do in order to make the relationship whole again. And it helps if you let the person know that you care about them. and that you care about your relationship with them. And if you're the one who broke the covenant, you go directly to the person and apologize. And not one of those false apologies that says, I'm sorry you feel that way. Don't you hate it when people say that? You name what you did wrong and what you'll do to clean up your mess and what you intend to do differently in the future. You ask the person, is there anything he or she needs from you to make your relationship whole again? Now, a shorthand version of saying all this is that you practice forgiveness. Sometimes of the other person, sometimes of yourself. This is what living in covenant means. It doesn't require perfection, but it sure does require persistence. You keep coming back again and again and again, because covenants are made by imperfect people. As I mentioned, some UU congregations, including ours, have used Griswold Williams' covenant, and some have composed much more explicit agreements of the behavior that's expected of people who walk together in religious community. And yet all UU congregations strive to live by the same covenant, our 7 UU principles. It's nice having the sermon accompanied by music. As I was saying, all of us UU congregations strive to live by the same UU covenant, and that is our UU principles, which you know are being reworked now by our denomination in the form of values. So on the surface, our principles resemble a creed, but they're not. As I pointed out before, creeds are statements of beliefs. Principles are statements of commitments. Creeds tell you what to think. Principles tell you how you aspire to live. I invite you to join me in reciting our UU principles, that again is printed on the insert, as a responsive reading. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote
the inherent worth and dignity of every person,
justice, equity, and compassion in human relations,
acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations,
a free and responsible search for truth and meaning,
the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large.
the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
I love our UU principles. Our UU principles form what I would call a spiritual covenant. And let me spell out what I mean by that loaded term, spiritual, because it means something different to every person. By spiritual, I mean that our principles point us beyond ourselves. We gather together, in other words, not simply to form a community of like-minded people, or even a community that behaves well and supports one another. That aspiration is too small for a religious community. Our aspiration is to change our world, beginning by changing ourselves. We exist for a purpose greater than ourselves. A true spiritual community needs more than beliefs. It needs principles that point the way to a better tomorrow, and to demand the commitment to live that vision today. If you live the way you would like life to be, then life will be the way you would like. In the final analysis, a covenant is not so much a promise you make to others, it's a promise you make to yourself. To be the kind of person you want to be, and to live the kind of life you want our world to be. So, if you are asked, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? I hope you'll say, we UUs aren't that interested in beliefs. We're more concerned with principles, and especially with putting our principles into action. Amen. So just a word while we're getting ourselves ready for this next portion. Dr. Jones, that was a fabulous message. Thank you so much for bringing it to our hearts and opening our spirits to it. And I loved the way you all began to sing. Nobody asked you to, and you just did anyway, and it was sweet, just like a hum all through the house. So thank you for that. Kathleen Kelly, Gord, how would you like us to get started here?
This is a very special time in which we welcome our new members. It's especially special because one of our new members is also going to be helping us conduct the service. So today we have the privilege of welcoming those who have signed our membership book since the past year. As your name is read, please come forward, and we'll form a line, a little semicircle here. And in case somebody has forgotten, last time we forgot somebody, please let us know. So Lynn and I will read your names, alternating, and we have some goodies for you to accept. One is a book, which is a foundation book to help you understand our principles. One is a mug, so you think of us first thing in the morning. One is a bumper sticker if you choose to tell the world you are a Unitarian. One is a pen, so if you write your name, you'll think of us. The next is your name badge, which is the way we'll know your name. And we also have a certificate. Now, it's not like a diploma, but it is a certificate you can hang on your bulletin board to remember you joined today. So, Lynn, would you like to start us off?
Yeah. Janet Brown.
Oh, okay. And Ted Brown. By the way, hold your applause. I know you didn't applaud, but hold it.
Mary Ann Sinelli. Diagua Cohen.
Michelle Cosgrove. Janine Geis. Giese. Janine Giese. We get to see who these people are now. So remember them. Remember their newcomers and be kind to them back when we have cake and coffee. Tell them your committee that you've joined so they can join it. Next week when we have our committee fair.
Leslie Haas.
Tina Hintz.
Sue Holland.
Chris Malmstrom. Oh man, how wonderful. Not that the women aren't wonderful. You're wonderful too.
Patricia Miller.
Nina Moore.
Suzanne Rowland.
David Rosenberg.
Jacqueline Stahl.
And out of alphabetical order, Neal Jones.
Here in this church, human beings have gathered seeking a higher purpose and a deeper meaning of life than they can find alone. We are grateful today for each of you that you have found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment in this faith community. We hope that as a member of this church, you will allow yourselves to know and to be known, to minister to and to be ministered unto, to love and to be loved by this congregation. Thank you.
And this newbie says, we never really know what combination of fate and friendship and good luck it is that brings certain people together in this world. But we believe that membership in the church calls each of us here to celebrate that fate which has drawn us together and to regard one another as a spiritual friend and a potential teacher.
It's tough to be sandwiched between two preachers. As a member of this church, we pledge to be guardians of each other's spirits, to respect the ultimate privacy of each one's human struggle, and to believe in each one's inherent dignity. Will the congregation please rise and join together with our newest church members?
In the front. All the way over. All in the bonds of fellowship and love, we unite to cultivate reverence, to promote spiritual growth and ethical commitment, to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passage, and to honor the holiness at the heart of being.
On behalf of the congregation, it is my privilege to welcome you to this community, bound by a shared quest for truth, goodness, and beauty. We do not promise final answers to life's ultimate questions, but instead the high adventure of seeking together. I'm going to repeat that again. We do not promise final answers to life's ultimate questions, but instead the high adventure of seeking together. We invite you to share our concerns for justice, peace, that we might better shape the meaning of our lives and build a better world.
As members of the community ever belonging, we welcome you.
Mindful of our heritage and our hope.
Of our hope, we pledge to walk beside you to salvation, growth, and service. On behalf of the membership committee and the members of the committee who put together all of the parts of this service, we welcome you to this community. We invite you to join us in all that we do. And we invite all to share in the cake, which is here in honor of our new members, when you have your coffee. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a song we forgot about. Hymn number 145, As Tranquil Streams.
So as you can tell, we're still not used to this particular order of service, but we're celebrating an enormous step forward that this congregation has made. And I really am thrilled to be a part of this and to watch this take place and unfold. For those of you that don't know this, there are 3 or 4 regular ministers that go through a cycle of speaking and preaching here. So the good news is that if you didn't like it, there's another one guy offering you thoughts. We have, of course, Pat Jobe, who is not with us today, but he's one of our regular speakers. But we take joy and pleasure in this. We have a very unique system here, and it's really quite successful. But
and we have good food.
Thank you. Dick, would you stand up? Yeah. Because he's one of the guys that'll come and fix up what Neal and I break.
Next week.
Beg pardon?
Next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking forward to that. But Dr. Jones, your words are encouraging, and we look forward to becoming a people of deeds that makes a difference in our world and in our society. And I thank you for pointing us in that right direction. You have some closing thoughts.
We'll close with what may be some familiar words by Tennyson. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Go in peace.
Would you stand now as you're willing and able and recite with me the extinguishing the chalice? While we extinguish this flame, we still carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Six years.